Some dreams feel like memories from another life. Tonight we explore dreams in parallel universes with a calm, testable lens. Within the first minute, you will hear a simple experiment you can try, and by the end, you will have a gentle way to evaluate results for yourself. Dreams and parallel universes is our hub question, and lucid dreaming is our first spoke. I promise a thoughtful map where solid sleep science meets careful speculation, with your agency kept intact from the first steps to the last. Here is our human tension stated plainly. Most dreams dissolve like foam, yet a few arrive with eerie solidity, as if you briefly visited a place that remembers you back. Before we roam the wild terrain, we anchor a few terms in plain speech. REM is a sleep stage when the eyes dart under closed lids and the body is largely paralyzed, a safety lock called Atonia, so we do not act our stories. Hippocampal replay means the brain rehearses recent patterns during sleep, like saving files and compressing them. Amygdala involvement adds emotional tone, tinting memories with heat or coolness that can amplify how true a dream feels upon waking. Lucid dreaming is the special case when you realize you are dreaming while still inside it. You can sometimes nudge the scene, like steering a kite rather than controlling the wind. We will briefly touch two speculative frames often mentioned, Many-Worlds and Orch-OR, and return later to place them carefully. Two more phrases we will treat with care. Decoherence is how quantum options settle into classical outcomes when the environment nudges them, and the collective unconscious is a cultural idea that some patterns of meaning feel shared across people. Déjà vu is the sensation that a present moment is repeating itself. We will use it as a comparison case because its familiarity can mimic the feeling of a dream remembered from somewhere else. Now a small operational example so you hold agency from the start. Choose any capture method you prefer, whether a bedside notebook, a voice memo, or a simple index card. And promise yourself you will record the first scraps of the dream before any other movement. Here is the first gentle experiment in one breath. Ask a friend to select a secret target word before you sleep, time-stamped, and tomorrow you write your dream first, then open the word, and only then check for any honest overlap. A soft jolt arrives now. If a dream is only our brain stitching memories, why do a few feel like places we could map with street names and reliable landmarks? The immediate answer is not mystical. Repetition builds familiarity, and the brain loves compressing scenes into reusable sets, so your dream city can stabilize across nights because you have sketched it many times without noticing. Yet there is a counterintuition we must handle with respect. Some people report discovering new blocks in these dream cities that remain stable years later, a kind of internal cartography that keeps adding districts without collapsing back to noise. We keep the thinking simple and the language soft. Perhaps the brain is a simulator that keeps a long-running archive, and perhaps on rare nights it also tunes like a radio to distant patterns we do not yet know how to measure. Let us talk about déjà vu as a friendly decoy. A common explanation is a brief mismatch in timing between recognition systems, creating a false echo that feels uncannily right, and this can masquerade as a memory from a parallel path. Now another turn arrives, declarative and quiet. Some lucid dreamers return to the same plaza with the same fountain and the same chipped step, night after night, as if randomness learned geometry. Our answer again keeps both feet on the ground. Neural networks conserve effort by reusing architectures, and your imagined city borrows pieces from every street your shoes ever touched, recombined in a believable pattern that feels discovered rather than built. We will not lean on many worlds to explain this, yet we will not forbid wonder either. If reality branches, then there exist streets you never walked here that you might have walked elsewhere. And a dream could be a whisper of that geometry, or just a strong blend of memory shards. Here is the second experiment framed like play. Each time you visit the recurring place, sketch a simple map upon waking. Then compare the maps over weeks to see what stays constant and what changes under retelling. Set a rule that protects honesty. Do not correct yesterday with today, and do not invent labels after reading someone else, because the goal is not a perfect atlas, but a measure of stability inside your own experience. A third bright thread steps in lightly. What if dreams are not only stories we project, but signals we sometimes receive? The answer is an outline rather than a claim. We have no reliable meter for cross-reality radio, yet we can build fair tests that would fail quickly if nothing but imagination is at work, and that is a worthy beginning. Keep the sleep science close because it explains most of the terrain. During REM, the brain rehearses memory and emotion, mixes them into scenarios that test your future reactions safely, and produces creative leaps that often feel like they arrived from elsewhere only because you did not watch the steps assemble. Now, a gentle tension between models. Many Worlds is an interpretation of quantum mechanics that treats every outcome as realized somewhere, and Orch-OR is a speculative idea that micro-events in cells may matter for consciousness. And neither is necessary to dream, but both set the stage for imagination about parallel U's. To keep humility, we introduce a skeptic inside the room. They remind us that high emotional salience and strong visual coherence can trick memory into thinking a dream was special when it was simply vivid and lucky. We thank that voice and continue carefully. Coincidence feels rare from the inside, yet in large lives filled with countless details. Some matches are inevitable, and our job is to count properly rather than crown every echo as evidence. Now we place a lens that can test shared dream claims without leaning on belief. Two friends agree on a simple symbol in advance, then avoid contact until morning. Then write without delay. Then compare with a pre-decided scoring rule that penalizes vague hits. Design the scoring rubric before any dream is recorded. For example, exact phrase gets top points, close imagery earns fewer, and broad themes earn almost none, because ambiguity is the favorite hiding place of wishful thinking. Here comes a quiet question that opens the room. If shared dream anecdotes collapse under bias, could a stricter game reveal anything other than coincidence? Our answer is modest and operational. Most attempts will produce noise, some will produce pretty stories, and a rare few might produce a hit strong enough to schedule a second round, and that is the correct standard for continuing. Notice the rhythm we keep. Curiosity invites, skepticism steadies, and a small practice gives your night some gentle structure without burdening your rest or promising what no one can promise. Another necessary clarity arrives now. When you hear near-death accounts or precognitive dream stories, resist the speed of explanation. Stay with the data as reported. And Separate interpretation from description with more space than feels comfortable. If a dream seems to preview a future event, ask a slow question at breakfast. How many similar dreams did not match anything? And did you tell this one differently after the event? And did anyone record the details before the event occurred? Let us circle back to déjà vu. To unlock a helpful metaphor, the brain sometimes mislabels novelty as familiarity because the present scene shares a few key shapes with older stored patterns, like a melody that reminds you of another without being the same song. In that spirit, the feeling of other lives during dreams could be the brain recycling a handful of motifs that reliably produce belonging. A rocking train, a certain winter light, a laugh from the next room, all woven into a convincing fabric. Here is a midpoint contradiction we must embrace. The very mechanisms that can explain the magic also produce the possibility that rare, meaningful signal hides inside the churn, and the only ethical stance is to build tests that could falsify our favorite hope. So we refine the journal practice with a blind prompt design. Your friend chooses a place or object from a fixed list, stores the choice with a timestamp, and in the morning your writing is dated before any reveal, clean and comparable. Repeat not once, but across many nights. Only patterns that survive repetition matter, because a single surprising hit is indistinguishable from luck until it returns with enough clarity to force a new question. We add a small trick to protect you from self-persuasion. Write quickly and without adjectives. Then seal the page for a moment. Then breathe. Then open the target. And only then allow yourself to feel whatever you feel about the match. Now we bring back lucid dreaming as a lever. If you become aware inside the dream, turn slowly and look for your hands, then the ground, then one stable feature like a sign or a door frame, and carry one word back with you. This is not about control, so much as continuity. By gently attending to a simple anchor, you increase the chance that the memory trace will survive the wake threshold intact, where journal ink can catch it before it evaporates. Another bright thread arrives in quiet clothing. Some report that a single landmark from a lucid dream will recur across months like a beacon, almost as if the place waits between visits. We answer with a blend of respect and restraint. The brain is excellent at constructing continuity from fragments, and if something more than that is happening, we should expect the continuity to sharpen under stricter observation, not blur. Invite your patience now, because this is slow craft. The nightly ritual is light, the scoring rule is clear, the maps are drawn without correcting the past, and over time, you will know whether your experience is stable enough to warrant deeper wonder. We approach our late lens shift with kindness. Until now, we treated the brain as a projector that throws stories onto the inside of the skull. Yet we could also think of it as a receiver that tunes to patterns within and perhaps beyond. In physics, decoherence describes how delicate quantum options crash into the noisy environment and lose their superposition. As a metaphor, it reminds us that fine patterns fade quickly, unless conditions are hushed, and sleep is a hush that might let faint structures ring. Place this next to ORch-OR without selling it too hard. If micro-events in neurons ever matter to the way experience hangs together, then REM could be a time when those events contribute to unusual binding, though we do not need this to respect the strangeness of dreaming. and place it next to many worlds, like a story to hold gently. If reality explores all options, then there exist versions of you whose nights walk other streets, and perhaps emotional resonance sometimes carries an imprint across the branches, or perhaps not at all. Bring in the ethical guard now. We do not instruct anyone to chase extreme methods, deny medical advice, or disrupt sleep health. Because the adventure here is intellectual and observational, not dangerous or heroic. Before we approach that large quiet, let us widen the ground with a few more steady steps. Sleep is not one monolith, but a rhythm of stages that repeat in gentle arcs across the night. Non-REM brings slow waves that help clear metabolic clutter, while REM returns with its vivid simulations and that safety lock called Atonia. Your cycles lengthen as the night goes on, so the final passages often host the most elaborate scenes. This timing alone explains why morning dreams feel cinematic, and it also hints at where to place your experiments for kinder odds. Memory work during sleep has two companion skills, worth knowing by name. Pattern separation helps you keep similar memories apart, and pattern completion helps you fill gaps when a partial cue arrives like a fragile thread. When people report a dream city that gradually coheres, we can hear both skills at play. The brain separates districts that should not blend, then completes missing streets, using motif libraries drawn from every place it has ever loved. Inside the hippocampus live place cells that fire for locations and grid cells that provide a coordinate mesh. In dreams, their duet can sketch landscapes that feel navigable, which is remarkable even if no parallel world participates at all. If you wish to calibrate your own sense of déjà vu, try a daylight game. Walk a new route and briefly close your eyes before turning each corner. Then notice how quickly a repeated pattern of awnings or brickwork can create the flavor of return. Lucid dreaming deserves both respect and gentleness. The classic mental technique is simple intention set before sleep, sometimes paired with a quiet middle-of-the-night wake to remind yourself that awareness inside the dream is possible without force. If you do attempt a gentle cue, keep it ordinary and safe. A faint tone on a smartwatch or a simple mantra is enough. Anything stronger risks fragmenting rest, and our aim is learning, not conquest. The recurrent map project can be made more honest with a few small rules. Draw first, label second, and only with nouns that appear unbidden. If you find yourself guessing, stop and leave the space blank so tomorrow can speak. Over several weeks, you will have a stack of imperfect maps. Look for invariants like the angle of a street to a shoreline or the relative positions of three landmarks, because those ratios resist the distortions of memory better than names do. Add a fair comparator so your mind does not reward coincidence twice. Ask a friend to produce a random scribble map with straight segments and curves. Then compare your invariants against randomness before claiming special order. For the blind prompt journal, predefine a small vocabulary of targets to prevent poetic overfitting. A fixed list, like river, key, orange door, spiral staircase, and distant station, limits the game to matches you can actually count. Score with restraint so you can trust your own results. Exact mentions earn full points, close synonyms earn fewer, and general mood earns almost none, because otherwise everything becomes a hit and the test loses its spine. A word on base rates softens grand conclusions. In a life filled with thousands of nights, a handful of striking overlaps must occur by chance, and the task is not to celebrate them, but to see whether they exceed what chance would normally supply. If you enjoy numbers, keep a tiny ledger. Record trials, targets, scores, and your own prediction before you reveal the envelope. Then glance at the running average after 10 or 20 rounds and let the arithmetic cool your bias. Shared dream attempts benefit from pre-registration, a fancy word that simply means write your plan before you act. Agree on who writes first, how long the entries can be, and what counts as success before sleep begins. Consider building a private archive with dates and hashes, so the past cannot be edited. A simple checksum from a free tool can prove that yesterday's page is exactly yesterday's page without exposing its contents to anyone else. Ethics travel with us even into dreams. Never pressure a partner to share intimate details. Never publish without consent. And remember that the point of these games is to learn about attention, not to win on the internet. Let us return to the receiver metaphor and give it clearer shape. A receiver is any system that becomes more orderly when a certain pattern arrives, and the brain is famous for locking onto rhythm, contour, and meaning in exactly this way. Imagine it as resonance rather than radio. When a tone that fits the body of the violin passes through the air, the wood itself begins to sing. Likewise, when the right structure enters a sleeping mind, whole scenes can bloom from a seed. From information theory, we borrow another friendly idea: signal to noise. If the brain receives anything faint from beyond itself, that faintness must still beat the noise threshold. And repetition across nights is our only practical amplifier at home. A brief vignette shows the flavor without asking you to believe it. A listener reports a staircase that always turns 4 times to a weathered blue door, and after months, details as small as a missing tile remain where they were last seen. The skeptic inside us offers a real alternative. Consistency can arise because the mind enjoys familiar scaffolding, and the more you sketch the same place, the more likely you are to reuse angles that feel right in your hand. So we propose a decisive tweak. Ask a friend to choose one of 3 architectural changes beforehand, like the door color or stair count, and see if a lucid visit can detect the specific alteration without your daytime self knowing which one was chosen. Cultural lenses widen the invitation while keeping facts tidy. From temple incubation in ancient Mediterranean sites to dream yoga traditions in high plateaus, humans have long treated sleep as a doorway, though explanations vary and proof is not uniform. We handle these stories with respect because meaning helps bodies heal. Whether the universe branches or not, the relief of being heard by the night is a medicine that requires no metaphysics to justify its gentle glow. Consider also the phenomenon of false awakening. When you dream that you woke and wrote the dream, it is a playful reminder to check twice in the morning and not to grade yourself harshly when memory performs sleight of hand. Time behaves elastically in dreams, which can distort how convincing a story feels. A long narrative may occupy only a few minutes of REM, and that compression can trick us into awarding importance where there was simply dense editing. If you want to reduce suggestion effects, avoid reading other people's dreams while you are running your tests. Borrowed imagery is sticky, and the goal is to hear your own signal before community colorings paint it. One more calibration move strengthens courage and caution together. Pick a month where you score everything rigorously. Then pick a month where you simply enjoy the theater without scoring, and notice how the feel of the practice changes. The Many-Worlds lens can be used as a creative prompt rather than a verdict. Ask what a nearby branch of your life would do differently in the dream city tonight. Then see whether the imagined choice surfaces as a scene rather than a thought. If nothing appears, you have learned something about the limits of intention in your sleep. If something does appear, you have a note to test again, because in all of this, our North Star is repeatability rather than romance. On safety and sleep health, a gentle reminder: protect your bedtime, keep screens dim and distant, treat caffeine with courtesy, and welcome ordinary rest as the foundation that makes any night science possible. Some will ask about devices that promise to deliver lucid dreams on demand. The fairest answer today is that consistency is rare, placebo is strong, and your simplest tools remain attention, rest, and kindness to yourself. We can even borrow a tool from writing class, the zero draft. When you wake with fragments, accept them as complete for now, and only later in the day if you must. Add a second paragraph that reflects without reshaping the first. You might discover that the quieter you handle the evidence, the richer it becomes. Pressure breeds embroidery, but patience lets small constants declare themselves in their own time. If a dream carries a feeling that does not match any image, record the feeling anyway. Some patterns return first as moods, and only later as places or phrases, and your ledger should be wide enough to welcome that order of arrival. We are nearly ready for the large quiet we planned together. Let these added steps settle like sand in clear water. Then we will walk into the stillness with fresh eyes and a steadier hand. Soon an image to hold will appear, followed by a single experiment you can try tonight without strain. First, a small pressure drop to open that space. Tonight you will perform a tiny test while you sleep, and by morning you will know one honest thing about your own mind. Close your eyes and imagine a library with shelves that keep walking outward. Each shelf holds versions of a moment, tiny changes of color and angle, and you move along slowly until a spine warms your palm as if it remembers you. You open one book, and the page is a simple room with a window, a desk, and a faint hum as if from a distant train. The air is still. The lower edge of the frame is dark and quiet, and you read a single word you promised to carry back. Now the experiment that fits inside your life without force. Ask your friend for a sealed target drawn from a fixed list. Sleep as you always do. Wake and write without delay, and then compare by rules you chose before any dream occurred. Add the map if you carry a place back with you, draw it quickly, and label only what arrives without effort. Then set the pen down and feel gratitude for whatever came, large or small, because the practice itself builds attention muscles you will use everywhere. You may try a paired attempt in a gentle way. Agree on one symbol in advance. Keep the night free of messaging. Write first, only then compare. And treat any result as a starting point for better design rather than as proof. This triad of practices forms a loop you can sustain. Blind prompt to check for overlap beyond chance. recurrent map to measure stability, and paired attempt to test shared structure, all under the umbrella of kindness to your sleep. Let us return to clarity. Most dreams are the brain rehearsing, sorting, and inventing, and that is already a wonder because it means your nights are workshops where tomorrow is rehearsed in safety. A few dreams may feel like echoes from other paths, and we treat that feeling as data without deciding the universe on the spot. If something beyond imagination participates, it should leave footprints we can notice under repetition and fair scoring. Hold language that keeps humility alive. Words like could and may and tends signal respect for what is not yet settled, and they make room for surprise without inviting confusion to rule the room. As we close, remember the balance we chose. We did not dismiss wonder. We did not sell certainty. We built a small bridge made of journals, maps, and shared symbols where your own nights can teach you patiently. If you wake tomorrow with nothing, you still practiced the art of attention. If you wake with a fragment that returns across weeks, you have a reason to continue. And if a clear match arrives against the odds, you have earned your curiosity. Before we part, let us collect the most common objections and answer them plainly. We welcome these questions because good skepticism is a form of care for the truth. Objection 1 says, powerful emotion can glue a dream together so tightly that it feels like proof. The answer is agreement paired with a remedy, which is to measure repetition under fixed rules rather than under rising feelings. Objection 2 says that language stretches to fit after the fact, turning almost any symbol into a hit. Our remedy is to assign scores that punish vagueness and to decide those penalties before any night begins. Objection 3 asks why coincidences are not enough to explain everything we have discussed. Here the remedy is scale. Over many trials, chance will show its pattern, and only a signal that stands taller than that pattern deserves another round. We can sharpen this with a pocket version of Bayes, stated in friendly words. Start with how likely a match would be if nothing but chance is working, then ask how much more likely the match would be under your favorite idea, and update gently rather than leaping. Imagine 2 jars on a table, one labeled chance and the other labeled signal. Each new night drops a bead into one jar or the other by the strength of its evidence, and only after many nights do we see which jar is filling. Another question asks whether lucid control ruins the test. The short answer is that awareness inside a dream does not guarantee authorship of every detail, and in practice, most people steer lightly while the deeper weather still blows on its own. A different worry wonders about sleep paralysis and fear. If this visits you, remember you are safe. Name one object in the room and breathe slowly through the wave. None of our experiments require you to enter that doorway. Let us add a taxonomy in simple steps to organize our night theater. Hypnagogic images appear as you fall asleep like drifting lanterns. Hypnopompic fragments greet you as you wake, and a core cinematic work often happens in REM across the later cycles. Nightmares and night terrors are not the same, the first arriving with a vivid story, and the second often arriving without a narrative but with strong arousal. If either burdens you, spare yourself our games until your rest is peaceful again. On mapping invariance, we can borrow 3 quiet measures. First, the relative angle between 2 streets that frame a landmark. Second, the fixed order of 3 features along a path. Third, the ratio of steps between two nodes when you pace the scene. Keep these measures light and human rather than technical. We are not building a surveyor's map, but an honesty tool. So if the same relationships keep returning, you will see them without arithmetic straining your joy. For the paired dream attempt, a triple curtain can protect fairness. Curtain 1 is pre-registration of rules. Curtain 2 is a time-stamped archive. And Curtain 3 is a brief cooling period before comparison. So excitement cannot rewrite memory. We should also name the failure conditions that would change our minds. If maps drift randomly under invariant checks, if scores never beat a simple chance baseline, or if hits vanish the moment rules tighten, we retire the stronger claim with gratitude and keep the gentler gifts. Conversely, we can name what success would begin to look like without claiming it early. Independent, pre-scored matches that replicate across weeks under fixed targets would justify more careful trials, perhaps with a community lab that respects privacy. Now, we widen the science lens without drowning in names. Memory systems in the medial temporal lobe help build scenes from parts. The prefrontal cortex checks for coherence, and the dreaming brain ties loose ends into rehearsal tapes that prepare you for tomorrow. Creativity research shows that sleep helps with remote associations, the linking of far-apart ideas that do not obviously match. This explains why dreams can feel like messages from elsewhere, even when the sender is your own mind exploring its attic. Still, it remains true that some reports include durable structures that outlast ordinary drift. We do not conclude from that alone, but we do let it invite better designs, because good puzzles deserve good tables at which to sit and think. On many worlds, we keep the story clear and light. It is a way of reading the equations that treats unrealized possibilities as realized somewhere. And while that may be true, it does not hand us a mechanism for traffic between branches. On Orch-OR, we keep our words careful. It is a proposal that events inside neurons could matter in a special way to experience, debated by capable minds. And for our purposes, it functions as a reminder that the brain may host subtleties we have not mapped yet. We can place these side by side and avoid misuse. One is a cosmic lens on possibility, the other a cellular lens on experience, and neither grants permission to claim that a hunch is a discovery without the slow work of replication. If you wish for a weekly rhythm that is gentle, try this cadence. 2 nights of ordinary watching, 1 night of blind prompt, 1 night of mapping if a place returns, and 3 nights of simple rest with no experiments at all. Use a 3-breath method at wake to improve recall without strain. First breath. Notice the weight of the pillow. Second breath. Notice one sound. Third breath. Reach for a single image and only then move your body. If no image comes, you still win because the practice grows attention. If an image arrives, catch it in a few plain words and leave the adjectives for daylight where they belong. A small note on community helps the work stay kind. If you share with people who honor boundaries, celebrate honest misses, and remind one another that wonder does not need an outcome to be real. Let us add a brief parable to keep our posture humble. 2 listeners climb a hill at night, one insisting that every breeze is a voice, and the other insisting that no breeze speaks. The wiser path is to learn the hill's patterns and then attend for anything that persists beyond them. Now a daylight exercise that pairs with the night. Pick a familiar street and draw it from memory without looking. Then walk it and see what you missed. This trains the same muscles you need for fair mapping of imagined places. About déjà vu, here is a gentle home observation. When the feeling arrives, pause your speech rather than your step and take stock of 3 details in the room. Later, write whether that trio was common or rare, and watch how familiarity often tracks pattern density. An aside on language, the phrase "other lives" can be poetry for untraveled choices rather than a claim about literal branching, and poetry has its own truth when handled with clear labels and a steady hand. If you ever feel pressure to produce marvels, stop the experiments and return to simple rest. Your nights are not a stage for performance. They are a commons where body and mind repair and quietly negotiate tomorrow. We can also practice gentle refutation, which is a kindness to both sides. When a match seems strong, invent 2 alternative explanations and see if they can carry the weight. If they can, the match may be lighter than it felt at first. Record near misses too, not just hits, because a ledger that contains only victories is a diary of bias. Over time, you will respect the craft of noticing as much as any particular outcome. A word about stories that spread quickly online. Virality is not a proxy for validity, and the most shareable dreams are the ones packed with symbols that fit anywhere. Treat them as art, not as evidence. Now we knit together projector and receiver as companions rather than rivals. The brain can both generate scenes and resonate with patterns, and a mature view lets both operate while our tests sort which mode is dominant on a given night. If we ever found a repeatable effect beyond chance, the next step would be to reduce degrees of freedom. That means shrinking the list of targets, tightening the timing of prompts, and inviting a third party to score without knowing who dreamed what. Think of this as building a bridge with planks you can step on without falling. Each plank is a small rule that prevents the river of wishful thinking from sweeping us away. And when the bridge is long enough, we cross to better questions. Here is a tender exercise for evenings when worry will not let go. Write a question you would ask a wiser version of yourself. Then sleep without hunting for an answer. And in the morning, write whatever arrives without grading it for depth. If a scene comes that feels like counsel, thank it and still treat it as a scene. Wisdom can wear costumes, and part of our care is to try its advice in small steps under daylight rather than committing at midnight on a tide of feeling. Let me name 3 closing paradoxes we can hold without strain. Dreams are both rehearsals for real life and experiences in their own right. Skepticism is both a shield and a lamp, and wonder is both a guide to explore and a force to be gently restrained. We have walked far together tonight, from REM Atonia to imagined cities, from déjà vu to careful scoring, from receiver metaphors to cultural echoes. None of this requires belief to be beautiful. All of it rewards patience. Now let us stroll once more through that library with a calmer step. You move past shelves that are no longer infinite, but simply generous. And the book that warmed your palm earlier now opens to a blank page, waiting for whatever kindness the night will write. When you sleep, let the experiment be light and the expectations lighter. When you wake, let your first words be plain and your second words be grateful that you have a mind capable of such rich rehearsal. We end as we began, with human tension named and softened. Most dreams will remain the brain's graceful workshop, and a few may feel like echoes from paths untaken. Either way, you are learning how to listen without fear and to test without hardness. Carry this final line like a lantern. The world you walk by day is already more than enough, and the world you meet at night may simply be how your mind rehearses being alive, or sometimes something stranger brushing the edge of our understanding. May you meet the day with a quieter courage than you had before. Either way, you are held.